In a Dark Souls world where you have 5 different damage types, there's one that is a little bit more mediocre than all the others, which is the lightning typing, which revolves mostly around the miracle castings, and unfortunately, almost all of them are mediocre as well. But we're going to try and fix that and make a meta-contending build. Well, how are we going to do this? Well, if you saw the last episode, you'd know. But anyway, we did change a couple things since the last time I was on, and I'm sorry for being gone for a little while. So we got rid of Lightning Stake and put those stats into Vitality because better resistances were needed, and Lightning Stake isn't all that good if your opponent knows how to dodge. Now, the equipment I'm using, min-maxed armor, because slash resistance is the best to have, and all of that has very good slash resistance. Now, actually, this is a little bit old footage. I took it a couple days ago, and after the Xbox One tournament, I have a different version of this build, but I'm just sitting on this, so let me at least show you what this can do before we change it. So yet again, I'm sorry for my absence, but when it comes to being able to actually upload videos, I'm really limited by, school, because finals are coming up here soon, which obviously is going to take a lot of my time. I also got to work on top of that, so amount of time I can work on this sort of stuff is not very much. But I was sitting on this footage because I did record it a couple days after the first video of the Miracle build. Now what I changed, because if you remember me saying I was going to improve the build in my eyes, I did so. And what I changed was, rather than having 30 attunement, I went down to 24 because we don't need Lightning Stake. And I know in the video I spoke about why Lightning Stake was good, but the reason we're not using it now is because if you ask yourself, am I going to hit a good player with this? Like, think of any really good player, like Gemetic or I don't know, B-dubs. Ask yourself, are you going to hit them with a Lightning Stake? And the answer is no. So I was like, okay, I think taking less damage, and quite a bit less damage at that, is more important. So that's exactly what I did. Now I will go ahead and tell you that this build has already been changed yet again since I recorded it, because after I was in the Game Economist tournament and I got just fucking whooped, I wanted to reflect on why the build didn't do all that good. And I will be going over that in the next episode, which will be on the newer build. But this build kind of changes a lot. The next installment of the series, it will be very different. So, something you're actually going to see me try a lot in this video, and I won't be, doing very well at all, is trying to unlock and shoot people with Lightning Arrow. And this goes yet again to the question I asked earlier, are you going to hit someone that's good at this game, and I mean really good at it, with a Lightning Arrow? And the answer is simply no. Using Lightning Arrow, because even though Lightning Arrow has a lot of options, it still has a slow wind up and it still has a slow spin down time. And that's something you have to take into consideration. I've grown to never use the lock-on when I'm using Lightning Arrow. And yet again, this is for the next video. You'll see me try it a lot in this video, but I had been practicing in this one, but I didn't have it down to a T. But yes, unlocking is a way to counter a lot of the problems that Lightning Arrow has. For one, your ability to roll catch ends about, I would say, about 5 or 6 character lengths away from you. But if you unlock and you learn how to unlock, you can do it from a much farther distance. And another thing is if you know how to do it, Lightning Arrow is a bit easy to counter because you can run right in and get a backstab if your opponent releases the arrow when you're already close to them. So that's extremely frightening, and unlocking is the way to take care of that. Now if we look at this man here, this was a bit of a long duel, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I want to take a look at Lightning Storm to see how effective it is, but if I were to make a build with Lightning Storm, it'd probably be an invasion build, because Lightning Storm, it's so slow. And that's where the basis of the problem comes with every single miracle. And what's sad is that even though Lightning Arrow is the fastest miracle, offensive miracle, it's still slow. Like, when I was in the tournament, I had loaded up a Lightning Arrow, and because I lost to a Pyromancer, he 3-0'd me. He chucked out a Chaos Bed Vestiges about the same time, and even though his damage was about twice as much as mine, yes, just look at this brilliant misclick right here. This is another problem that's addressed with the next iteration of this build. I've come to find that this build, when you're playing in the old Wolf Arena, has a bit of a weakness to Pyromancers. And the reason is because Chaos Bed Vestiges does really good against Great Arrow, because the wind down of Lightning Arrow is about as much time as it takes for them to huck a Chaos Bed Vestiges at you. So it really limits what the main focus of this build is. Now, the Homing Soul Mass and Farron Dart aren't as easy to counter, but like let me put it like this. Lightning Arrow is slow enough that if you start it around the same time your opponent starts a Crystal Soul Spear, which is an unimaginably slow GG to that guy, which is an unimaginably slow sorcery, he's still gonna hit you. The only way you can do anything is if you're lucky enough to be able to roll out before you even get the shot off. And that's just no fun. So you really have to pick your battles when you're fighting a ranged opponent. And when I really began to think about it, the less I liked the Hyper Armor on Lightning Arrow. I don't know, it's like, I find it to be a bit of a crutch, and you'll see a number of times in this video where I'll hold Poise Lightning Arrow for like a whole lot of time, and you see it's like nothing's happening. I would make the argument that, like, you know, you're applying pressure, but considering you can counter that pressure, it's kind of meaningless, and it's a really bad idea to rely on. So this video isn't so much, look how great this build is, like the last one was. This build is more or less looking at the weaknesses of it. And while I do think this is a good build, and it can definitely throw your opponent off, like that right there, there's a lot to it that you just simply, you have to take into consideration. Oh, just fucking, we need the X-Files music up in here. Just play that in your head. Now, actually a lot of these duels took a super long amount of time, and that's why you see the cuts between all of them, is because people decided that they never wanted to fight me ever, and it was really frustrating. And it's partially because people just really don't like fighting things that, you know, aren't weapons. I don't know, people kind of have a temper tantrum in this game. Like the casuals, you know. If they can't counter something by pressing R1, then they're sad, and they complain about how awful this game is. Now, if you cast Lightning Arrow before your opponent, if they're, say, a sorcerer, oh, kudos to this man for using that spell, for how much I fucking love Soulstream. It's so slow. It's so slow. But if you cast before your opponent, then they can't do anything. But the problem comes into place because if you cast after your opponent, then you can't do anything. Now, you could say you have more options than most builds do because you can roll out, but to be able to roll out still requires you to go through the entire starting frames, which is considerably longer than, say, firing a Great Soul Dart, which does about the same amount of damage. Now, this is an example of a fight that took forever. I cut down about an entire minute of the first half of this fight because he did nothing but run. I don't know why people have such a tendency to do that these days. Yeah, see right here I'm trying to unlock with it, I missed because I hadn't gotten used to it. This man I don't feel like was all that bad, but I mean, just wear armor, dude. Like, wear some armor. Stop being like, oh, armor means nothing, I can just, you know, fashion souls. Like, wear armor, people. God damn it. Yeah, see, there's another example. I just don't have it on point as of the time I recorded this. So, while I'm addressing flaws with this build, another one that irks me greatly is that you lose a lot, and I mean a lot of damage from your sorcery, or your miracles for that matter, if you aren't using the Bellowing Dragon Crest Ring, or the Sun's Firstborn, the whatever the hell that ring's called, you know what I'm talking about. The one that increases your miracles by 25%. You lose a lot when you're not using those rings, which takes up an entire 2 ring slots, and then you have to wear the Sage Ring plus 2 on top of that, and it just becomes a headache because you don't get to use Ring of Favor. I am using Prisoner's Chain, if you remember seeing that. You don't get to use Chloranthy plus 3. You don't get to use Life Ring plus 3. Just a little funny thing right there. Me and this guy had a good couple of rounds. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I see someone in Lapse armor, I'm just instantly intimidated. Like, they made that armor look like the sort of thing that a fucking horse would be wearing if they wore armor. Like, if you imagine medieval armored horses, like, that just is what that reminds me of, and it's spooky, you know? But Ultra Greatsword, considerably less intimidating. Now, this fucking guy right here, this is a casual that is a ginormous loser, because after seeing that I'm a sorcerer, he does not attack me for the entire match, and he lets me hit him with like 20 Great Farron darts because he basically gives up. And watch this, watch this. This is how much of a loser this man is. He's like, oh, I won't give you the satisfaction of killing me. I bet you in his mind he said, you know what, I won that battle because I killed myself, and that doesn't give him the satisfaction. Dude, I don't care. This is a game, alright? It's not like, you know, you killed my sister or something. It's just a game. Where was I? Oh yeah. So, it's because one of the things that I want to do the most with this build is get rid of the Bellowing Dragon Crest Ring, because I hate using that ring. Reason being that, you know, it takes up a ring slot that I would much rather have the Life Ring on. Because Life Ring plus 3 just, gotta love the amount of HP it gives you. Like, I wouldn't have expected it to be so much, considering the Life Ring was basically worthless in Dark Souls 1. But man, there's a reason that every meta build has that. And I want it on this build so bad, but like, you lose like 30 damage off of your Great Farron Dart if you get rid of it. And the thing with Great Farron Dart is half of its usefulness comes from the element of surprise. Because once they begin to understand what the roll time of it is, it becomes a lot harder to hit someone with it. And the cooldown on Great Farron Dart is more than Fire Surge. Now, needless to say, you do get a very good running attack with Great Farron Dart, but you still put yourself in harm's way by doing that. Now, here's a perfect example of someone who knows how to counter Lightning Arrow. Pay attention to him. He's using Chaos. See, watch this. Just, what the hell was that damage? I think that's the Drakeblood Greatsword. I don't remember. I'll have to look back over it, but holy Jesus, that was a lot. Like, that was scary amounts of damage. But yes, that right there is an example of what's wrong with Lightning Arrow, is that you can backstab it, and it's not that hard. So unlocking that's where that comes into play. Now, as I was saying, you can take Bellowing Crestring off, but you're losing so much if you do that, because Homing Soul Mass won't do as much. Now, Homing Soul Mass isn't so much useful for damage as it is chipping, but you lose a lot of your chipping if you don't have Bellowing Dragon Crest Ring on. And you lose a lot, like almost half of your damage from Great Farandard, which is just ridiculous. I really, like, I don't know how to look at it, because, like, if you remember the days of Scott Jund, he would say the reason that Miracle, or just spell builds in general, are bad is because they take up all your ring slots. And that's kind of what the idea has been forever now, but you could also look at that in another way, that physical builds don't get any rings to increase their damage. So it's really just based on how good you think the damage is without the rings. And to me, it's personally not that good. I'll have to do some testing without them, because if I can get rid of them, that would just be the best thing ever. Like, having to spend 3 ring slots on stuff that I don't even want, like, if I could just get rid of that, that would be the best thing ever. It would help this build so much. So much. And it sucks that this build can't use the Bellvine, because that's basically a +2 Sage Ring that you can just equip to your offhand. If you watch people like Revan619, you see them do that all the time, because Demon Scar, being a two-handed weapon, can just have that on. You get an extra ring slot to play with, and you don't have to spend it on Sage Ring. And you can't do that with this build, because you have to have your straight sword out, or you need to get one of your 2 staves out. So yeah. Now, I wanted to end this video by saying I will be uploading. Like, I'm not dead. It's just I don't have much time to work with, but just hang in, guys. Stuff's coming. See ya.